Hi everyone. I wasn't going to make another video today, but I decided to. This is Granny J Clay, and I have something that I am working on, so I just thought, well, why not just do a quick video and share a little bit of this with you. So this is what I'm working on. I'm going to quickly put this down, if you can bear with me. There we go. All right. This is something that I just got out of the oven a little bit ago, and it really turned out fairly well, and so I wanted to show it to you. I may use it for a little wall hanging. It's kind of long for a necklace, but I also finished it off on the back a little bit and put my stamp on the back. But I thought it just turned out so pretty, and I have to show you where I got the design. I don't know if you can tell it or not, but the leaves on it are kind of bulging up, so it gives it texture, and the flower itself is bulging up a little bit too. So let me show you where I got it. This is a glass that my mother-in-law gave me, and she no longer does any cooking or baking. However, when she was baking, she would make cookies at Christmas time that were the most delicious cookie ever. It was a little sugar cookie, just so light and airy and just scrumptious. But the top of the cookie always looked like a sand dollar. And I looked all over for a glass that would do this, but this particular glass has that design on the bottom, and she gave them to me. So since she gave them to me, I gave one to my brother-in-law, and I have two others. I'm going to give one to each of my sisters-in-law. But these are not only good for cookies, they're good for clay. So obviously I didn't use this design for the flower, but I did pull the flower off the side of the glass. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to just kind of bring it up. The flower looks so very, very light, but there it is. And then you can see the leaves, and they indent, so when you push the clay on them, the clay goes into it and makes a beautiful leaf that protrudes from whatever you're making. And then I did this too. I put some clay on that, and that's pretty. That would make a pretty edging sometime. But I want to try this with a couple of other things. Just let me explain first to you. I have, let me see if I grab one here, some Pearl X powders, and in some beautiful, beautiful colors. And that's what I used. I have, of course, I have this green clay, Primo green clay. Let me see. I have just thrown one away, and I wanted to get that color to you. It is called Bright Green Pearl. Bright Green Pearl. So the clay itself is Bright Green Pearl, and I have some right here I'm going to use in a minute. One of my favorite greens. And then what I did was I also used this Emerald Pearl X on the leaves and on the stem. But obviously I used that on the flower itself. And then in the center, I used this Aztec Gold, my favorite. Oh, it's such a pretty gold. Doesn't it sparkle? I just think it's really pretty. So let me put this aside and the glass aside, and you and I together will experiment with a couple of other glass pieces that I had in my cupboard. I'll show you those to you as well. All right, I'll put this aside, those aside. The first one I'm going to try is a bowl. It's a little bowl. It has little legs on the bottom of it. You could use this for many things. I use it for candy at Christmas time or any other time. Whenever I want candy, I put it in this bowl. But if you turn it over, it has all kinds of texture on it. And this is a really pretty texture on the outside here. But I'm going to do the very center and see what I can get from that. Obviously I don't want the three legs, but I rolled out some of the green clay ahead of time. That's going to be too big, so I'm going to, maybe I'll just kind of cut a little circle and see. I guess I could use a cookie cutter too, but it's not handy at the moment, so I'm going to use this. So let's just see if that's going to fit. All right. You know what? I'll take my flexible blade, and hopefully you can see this. And we're just going to go like that, and like that, and just get some of the edges off and see how this plays out here. It might still be too big. No, it's fine. I can just use it this way. All right, get rid of the scrap over here and bring this in the middle. And now I'm going to just go ahead. I didn't put any release on this at all, but you can see as you push it down, hopefully you can see that it looks like I got a little color in there from one of the Pearl Ex powders I lifted up. But as you can see, as you press down, you'll be able to see the design in the clay. See that? And I also have something here that I use. It's called, what is it called? It's called a brush stick. And on the end is a foam tip that's quite hard. And so when I want to push some clay down, I just use that. I got that at Michael's, in case you're wondering. And I don't want to push too hard so that when I pull the clay up, it tears, but I also want to press pretty hard to get that imprint and see what it looks like. All right, let's pull it up. Oh, that's pretty. That's pretty. Now what you could do is, and maybe I'll do that in just a minute. I've got two more bowls that, I got a piece of clay there I want to get off. I have two more bowls here though that I want to do something with. So once I'm done, then we'll put a little Pearl Ex powder on it and see how it looks. This is fun, kind of experimenting with you. So I'm going to put that down and put that bowl aside. The next one I'm going to do is this. This is just a plate that I picked up at the dollar store, and I loved the ridges, and I have pressed clay into that, and it looks really nice. Again, it's indented, so when you pull it up, it has some texture. This is another circular pattern, very, very similar to this one. But I'm going to try to get some of the rim on the outside when I press down on this, and we'll see what that looks like. All right. And again, we're going to push it down. Sometimes it's good to start in the middle because you get air. And so you just push, push, push. And you'll get a little bit of that outside design as well. But, you know, once you have this design, you can take your cookie cutter, your round cookie cutter, or something else that, maybe a square cookie cutter that you want to use. But since it's a round design, I suppose I would use a round cookie cutter, but you don't have to. You can always use a teardrop cookie cutter if you wanted to. All right, let's see if this is picking it up too. And then you want to tamp down in the middle as well. Make sure this outside is tamped down, since I wanted to get that outside rim a little bit. This is really helpful. I just got these. And so often I'm looking for something to push because I don't want to use my finger. I hurt my finger playing with my dog, but it's gotten a lot better. I was wearing gloves earlier, but I decided to take them off for this. All right, we'll just see. I don't know if I did it very well, but we'll see how well I did it. Push that down there, and then just pull it off. No release again. You know, I could have mixed my clay better and maybe used the other side of the clay because that had a ridge exposed, but that's pretty too. And then if you wanted to make make a bigger medallion, you'd have that ridge around there. You know, you could use a round cookie cutter, cut it out, and just go to it with the Pearl Ex powders if you like. But it's sort of similar to this. This one is obviously smaller, and the pointed area, or the areas on the tips, are more pointed. These are more rounded. But both of them would make a very pretty necklace, I think. All right, put that one aside. Now this is interesting. When my father-in-law passed away, my father-in-law was a smoker, and my husband wanted the ashtray that he had. It was a old standing ashtray, and this is actually what he would put his ashes in. Now I cleaned this out with some alcohol and just cleaned it up really, really well. It's such a beautiful piece, but you can see around the edge there are places here, 4 different places for a cigarette. So anyway, I flip it over and set it there. And this one has so many pretty indentations, and even right in the middle there. So let's push a piece of clay on that and see how that turns out. That should be really pretty. And it's not very even. It's kind of rocking, so you might hear it rock a little bit. But I want to make sure I push in the middle, since it had that in the middle as well. Try to hold it still while I'm pushing on it. I'm sure some of you have already tried this technique. Most clayers love texture, and we look for texture in everything that we see. Everything that we see. Shape and mold, shape and mold. Just kind of like what God does to us. He takes us and shapes us and molds us. And this clay is such a pretty clay. It picks up patterns really well, so you can see them on the video. That one I didn't get very well. Okay, I've got 2 other ones. Let me show you these. So this is a round tip. This is pretty pointed, and then this one is the slanted one. And I've used all 3 of them. All 3 of them. So I'm just going to go right around here and make sure I didn't miss something. Sorry for the clanging. But I'm kind of excited to see how this one turns out. You have to keep pushing down on it. Make sure you get all the indentations. I know when I am doing my carousel horses, I have this mold, and once I have the clay prepared, I need to clean this mold up. I didn't clean it up after I made the very last one, but I need to clean it up with alcohol before I go to the next one. But maybe I should just do a tutorial on that. I might do that. I might do that later on, but this is something that I use these for as well, and I push, 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 so the clay goes down into this mold. And the wonderful thing about this mold is that nothing sticks to it. I don't put any release or anything in there, and the only thing that sticks to it a little bit is the Pearl X powder, but not even much of that stays. But enough of it stays so you don't want it in there for your, waiting for you when you do your next project, because you might use a different color Pearl X powder. All right, so enough of the carousel horse. Back to this. All right, let's see what this turns out like. Okay, we'll peel this off. Oh, isn't that pretty? Look at that. Oh, I think that is really, that's my favorite. That is my favorite. I love that. You know what I'll do is, I think I'm going to go ahead and put some Pearl X powder on here and show you how I did it with this one. And you may have your own techniques already, and you already know how to use Pearl X powder, but I use, sometimes I use a makeup sponge, sometimes I use a brush, sometimes I use my finger. Today I'm going to use, right now I'm going to use a brush. So I'm going to take these, and although they're okay, I'm not going to use them. I like this one very, very much. So I'm going to get rid of some of my blades over here and my brush sticks. Okay, and I'll even put this out of the way So I want to make sure that is somewhere where you can see it. Hopefully you can see that well enough. Take this out and this out. It's fun to try new things, isn't it? It's so fun. You just have to start doing something and just trust that it's going to turn out well in some way, shape, or form. And I really, really like this. I think what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to get some of my cutters out. Sorry for my digging. I should have had them out before. Oh, that's not the one I wanted either. I'm getting out my, what are they, Fat Daddy-O's nylon cutters, but what I'm looking for is the round one. And I got them in here somewhere. I just adjusted them in my, yeah, I need to do another cleanup on my cutters. Sorry for the crash, clash, clang. Anyway, these are the round ones, the Fat Daddy-O round ones. And if you've been watching other videos, you know that I like these the very best because they don't have a seam. They do not have a seam in them, and they're wonderful. So let's get these out. Let's see. And let's just see which one. Well, that looks pretty perfect. Let me see if I can wipe that off. It looks like it has a little residue on it from another project, so it sure does. And I don't want to, it looks like it has a little white clay. I must have been in a big hurry not to clean this off. So that's another part of claying. You have to keep all your tools clean, including your cookie cutters. And like I said, I was probably just in a big rush, or I just forgot or something. I didn't leave it on there on purpose, but it's coming off pretty easily here. All right, so there we go. Now what I'm going to do is see if I can get it centered. That's going to be the hard part. Okay, I think that looks good. I'll get that off in a minute. There's a flick of white that came from this cookie cutter. All right. Come on. All right, we got it off. Now that's ready. Put that over there. Isn't that pretty? That could be a pretty wall hanging. I see I didn't quite get the tip on that one. All right, let's just start from the middle though. I am going to start with the gold. I just love this gold. And when I do that, I just put, I just bring it out. And as you know, if you have worked with Pearl-Ex powders or anything else that's a powder, it just gets all over everything. And you have to be very careful not to inhale it, and so you might want to try a mask. I have a mask today. I'm not using it, but I just barely dipped this into the powder, and then I shake some of it off. And I'm just going to it's got quite a point on it, if you can see that. See? And then I'm going to very lightly just kind of come over this. I don't have enough. I'm always afraid of putting too much on and getting it all over the place, but okay. And even if you get it places you don't really want it, you can blow. You can blow it a little bit. So I'm very carefully doing the middle of this. I'll call it a wheel. But who would have thought that I could get this from my husband's father's old ashtray? Now you can see that some of it kind of flowed into there, and that's okay. Kind of looks like pollen, and pollen doesn't just stay in the center of the flower sometimes. This is what it looks like to me too, as a flower. So I'm just going to actually go ahead and put some there. Take a little bit more, tap, tap, tap. And just add some on the outside so it so barely touches the next rim. Okay. Now that did not get all over, which is really nice. So I think if you're very careful, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm way too liberal. But isn't that pretty? That's a pretty beginning. And now I have to decide what I want as I come out further and further. But I just wanted to share this with you. I'm not going to finish it with you today, but it's such a wonderful technique. You can do whatever you want. You could use a smaller cutter if you wanted to and make this smaller, you know. You could do so many different things that would be so fun. Now what I probably will do is I'll take this chunk of clay here and mush it all together and then roll it out with my roller and run it through my pasta machine, and I'm going to make a back on this. And I'm going to use it as a little wall hanging. And I might just make some of these for my sisters-in-law and for my brother-in-law, since it came from their dad's ashtray. I know that's not the best memory. You don't want to think of somebody inhaling smoke, but people do it. So, but it was something that he had beside him all the time. Isn't that beautiful though? That is such a pretty piece. Okay, that's all I wanted to share for today. I hope you enjoyed that. And, sorry, this tips. I hope you enjoyed that. Those just few tips of using something other than a roller or rubber mats or rubber, oh, what are they? Let me see, where did I put that? Rubber stamps. You can use other things to get texture as well. So just use your creative mind, and whatever you look at, think of it, could that be used as texture? Could that be used as texture? In fact, I'm just looking at this. I think I could run this paper towel through because it has, with my clay, because it has some texture on it, and I think it would pick something up. I think it would. I think it would do it. In fact, I'm just going to do it real quick and see. Hang on there. Let's just see. I'm just going to take a little piece of clay. I'm going to run it through my pasta machine, and then I'm going to take a piece of, a piece of the paper towel. I'll just tear it, a small piece, and I'm going to place, okay, there it is, and I'm going to place the clay on the towel and see if I get anything from the towel. This is just for fun, okay? Just for fun. So let's see what it does, if it does anything. It does a little bit, barely. I don't know if you can see it, but it picked up the print, and it picked up that diamond shape. But that was just to show you that you can use so many different things, Ah, one other thing I wanted to show you. I have a sponge in here. I know I'm disappearing again. But I have a sponge. Hang on, I'm coming. A sponge I bought over at Home Depot. And it was too thick to run through my pasta machine. And so what I did is I just sliced it. And then I thought, I like the inside better because see the slicing marks? See that? And I can run that through with my clay. Let me just do that too. And see if you can see anything from that. It has kind of become my favorite one to run through because it fits, and it's going to give me a little texture. It's obviously it squeezes together. All right, but it's subtle. Do you see it? It's very subtle, but it makes a pretty back on a piece. You always want to have the back of whatever you make look nice. So just wanted to show you that. Okay. Enough? Okay, I'll stop here. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.